how cool is that, that we can change each other's lives and help each other so that we're not broken, divorced, sharing our kids, all the things, because it's hard. It's hard.
Welcome to the Foxy Mama podcast, where creativity meets parenthood. I'm your host, Lindsay Barrasse, and each week we'll explore the world of creative entrepreneurship and business through the lens of motherhood. Join us as we chat with inspiring mamas and parents sharing their stories, insights, and the art of balancing it all. Whether you're an artist, entrepreneur, or just navigating parenthood, this is your space to find inspiration, helpful tips, and support. Now let's get Foxy Mama. Hey, I'm Lindsay Barrasse, host of the Foxy Mama podcast, and I am here with Cory Wall of Cory Wall Real Estate and mom of two. Cory, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I have been married for about 8 years. We just had our 8th anniversary, and we have 2 wonderful boys, ages 4.5 and 2. So and I love my career and my sweet boys. I love being a boy mom, as you know. It's the best. So that's a little bit about me. Born and raised here in Asheville, North Carolina, and just have such a passion for the mountains. So
yeah, it's definitely, there's not a day that goes by where I'm just like, can you believe we live here? It's just absolutely so beautiful. Just being surrounded by these like vast, big mountains. And and especially today, the weather's absolutely gorgeous. This fall weather that is like rolling in this end of summer into fall. And everything is just, I love it. And happy anniversary, by the way. I didn't know that. Like when's the day?
It was August 29th.
Happy belated anniversary. So let's dive in and tell me about your journey on becoming a real estate agent and the responsibility of being a mom and juggling that as well.
Oh, yes. Oh, man. So I have been a consultant that was my first career. So I did special education software. And within that career, they gave me 5 months maternity leave, which was amazing. But with that, I thought that I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And I learned with 5 months with my baby that I didn't, which is funny, but I loved that time with him, but I was ready to get back to work. But then what I learned when I went back to work was just that I was pretty miserable. I sat in a cubicle and sat there and just typed, and I just was not happy. Well, then COVID hit and I got laid off, which was the biggest blessing of my entire life. And once that happened, I jumped into real estate immediately. I had been thinking about it, but it just gave me the time, freedom to be able to get into a class and get into real estate. And being born and raised here in this area and having such a big sphere of people that I know and love already to help, just really made sense for me. So that's when I had, how old was, and it was a year old, or a year and a half. So got into it and decided with my husband like 6 or 7 months later that I wanted to have another baby. So we ended up getting pregnant. And at that point I was like, I want to take time off from my career again and be with this little baby. And realized that I didn't have the support I needed to make that happen. So I ended up, you guys, doing a referral on the hospital bed with my newborn baby, doing, getting news about an appraisal for a house, all these things. And, which really sucked. It was really freaking hard for me. So I ended up moving firms because I didn't have that support. And what the coolest thing, which from all of our experiences, I think the coolest thing that I've learned is that I can now take my experience and support another mom. So I was able to do that with someone here in North Carolina. She was having a baby and I prepped her and helped her and just didn't take commission and just supported her. And it was the most fulfilling thing I could do. And I just wanted her to enjoy her newborn. So that was just,
Yeah.
yeah, really awesome. And now I'm, at a firm that just supports people and moms and people going on vacation, and just really wants to help you live your full balanced life.
Yeah. And it's just such, I loved how you said how, you had this 5-month-old, but you were like, I'm ready to go back to work. And I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but I realized like that wasn't for me. And it's important to note like everybody's journey is so different. And there's like no judgment. There's no cause to be like, well, why don't I want to stay home with my baby? Or, that mom guilt that often comes. I shouldn't say often, it's just there.
Mm-hmm.
It happens, and it's real.
Mm-hmm.
And that you were able to find yourself through this journey and then help another mom in the process of doing like all these things. And it's just amazing to hear a story like that where everything happens for a reason. I like fully believe that. And you were saying, you're sitting at a cubicle and you weren't really happy. And then here's COVID lockdowns and you were let go of your position that you were in. And it's like this blessing in disguise because here you are like very happy in the career that you are in and momming it and killing it in all areas and helping another mom in the process. And that's what it's really about, is just like supporting each other in this like mom journey and this journey of life. Now, real estate especially like requires flexible hours. How do you manage your schedule and all the demands that a mom, like being a mom, comes with? I know we chatted a little bit about this before, but how like I'm late. Like I was like a little bit late, like before baby, and now with the baby, it's just like, oh, like sorry I'm late. The baby had a blowout, or all these things. Like, how do you manage that? Because there is no time with a baby. A baby doesn't wear a watch. And they don't know, like you have your own schedule. They're on their own schedule. They eat when they want, they sleep when they want, they go to the bathroom, and no amount of like sleep training or anything is really going to change that. It may a little, and it will certainly help. But how do you juggle that schedule and the flexibility of real estate and being a mom?
So there's this saying in real estate, it's called a Pop-Tart realtor. And what that means is like, oh, you need me to show you your house? Okay, I'm here. Oh, you need me to go do a listing appointment? Okay, I'll schedule it today at 3:00. And I think that's where I was at the beginning because I needed the business to support my family. And then I realized that I was being a reactive real estate agent or reactive businesswoman rather than going on my own schedule. So what I realized is I had to become a master at my calendar. So one of the things that always has to happen, like things will not happen unless they are on my Google Calendar. And I think with today, for a great example, I was like, how did I miss this? And for some reason, it didn't go on my calendar. So that's exactly why. And I realized, okay, so once I became a master at that, like, okay, I'm going to schedule a showing during this time and date. Okay, now I'm going to do this. Then it became, oh, well, my husband and I have a date night tonight at 8 p.m. and my client wants to go show a house. And I overwrite date. And that is not good. That's not a place that us moms need to be. Or a play date with a friend or something like that. Like business became more important than that stuff. So what I realized is I will honor it if it's on my calendar. So now my date nights, my kids' time, it all goes on my calendar, which anybody who has known me my whole life or any part of me knows that I'm not like a scheduled, labeled person, but I've become that way because of consistency and dedication to that, because it's, we're businesswoman, we have to run a business, and that's how people run a business. So I think, also thinking back to my consulting job, I showed up for some corporate person at 8 a.m. no matter what, and I had to show up. But now that I am my own business owner, I can do whatever I want, right? So I have to force myself to show up at the time I say I'm going to show up and honor that and honor myself to make it happen. So that's a big thing too, as I come into my office and I make things happen by 8:30 in the morning every morning.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so important. Like consistency is key with so much. And it's something that like I tell my own clients, I tell myself, like you can't expect to walk into a gym and do one workout and say like, that's it, I have abs now. I'm so good. Yay. Like you have to consistently show up for your workout, do it and do it on a regular basis. And eventually you'll get to the point of having abs, let's just say, like, or maybe you don't, but if you just keep on showing up, there will be an outcome of a success, of a completion. And that comes with running a business, is just keep showing up and keep being consistent. And I love that you're like, well, I have to put it on my Google Calendar. I was never a person. I was like, oh, I'll remember that. I've got that. Like, and I had such an amazing memory before motherhood, before becoming pregnant. And like that mom brain is absolutely 100 and zillionth percent a real thing. But also as I got older and with just running a business, I became more and more to putting things on a calendar, doing things that way. And I would say like the last 5 years were really starting a calendar. And within the last year, everything goes on the calendar. My husband and I have a shared calendar. I have a calendar for my business. My husband has his calendar. We join those two together to see like if we could schedule things. I love that you mentioned scheduling a date night, something my husband and I totally have to do. And we don't do, and we put like on the back burner. And it's so important to prioritize self-care as well. And whether that's a date night or, a mani-pedi or just 5 minutes of a meditation. And it may be silly to say like, oh, I put 5 minutes of meditation that I have to stop what I'm doing and do that meditation on my Google Calendar. And someone might be like, oh, why not just do it when you can? Because it doesn't work like that. It's just so easy to see that and say, okay, this is what I have to do. My Google Calendar, I use Asana. That's very helpful for me. My husband, Dave, uses Google Calendar. And it just helps things become more efficient. Now, granted, sometimes, as you mentioned, like, oh, you didn't put it in the calendar. You didn't put this, like something in the calendar. That does happen. And it's like, oh, crap. And it's important to forgive yourself and have that patience with yourself. And realizing like not everybody, I shouldn't say not everybody, nobody is perfect. I think this is my theme for today, is being imperfectly perfect, perfectly imperfect. And that when stuff like this happens, just put one foot in front of the other and say, okay, well, this is what I have to do now. This is what my day looks like. Can you provide some tips and like kind of strategies that you use to balance your work and your family life? Now, you mentioned Google Calendar and putting the date night on there. What are some other things that you utilize in the home setting that help you balance not only just work, but that work life, mom life, married life balance?
There are a few things. There's a lot of tips and tricks I feel like I do have. One of the biggest like business things for me that I just recently did is 2 phones. They look a little too similar, but that's what I did. And I can put my work phone away completely now. So, there is the do not disturb section, or the, whatever you have, you can do that. But just to physically remove it so it's not even tempting while I'm playing with my kids, has been so important. Um, and then also, on my work phone, I ignore my text messages. So I turned off the
Mm,
notifications for my text messages because anybody that's texting me is typically it's not an immediate concern. It's nothing that's like, oh, I need you now. It's typically something that you can get back to. And then that way I can do that on my time and I'm not distracted because I think Darren Hardy says this in The Compound Effect that when you distract yourself with a text or an email, it takes you about 15 minutes to get back onto task. And that can add up throughout your day.
mhm.
So being really productive when you are ready to work. Another thing is someone else told me this with spouses and partners is the 3Ds, which I love, dialogue daily, because as we have children, I think it becomes more and more difficult to talk to each other. Um, and so, like, once the kids go to bed, we'll do like 15 minutes before we turn on the TV or something. Because,
Mhm.
sometimes you just like mind numbing. You just want something that you're not even
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
and it takes energy and effort to sit there and talk to your spouse, but we'll make tea and just do, 10 minutes even. Just, hey, how
Yeah.
was your day? What happened? Because even at dinner, we're talking to the kids.
Mhm.
And then the second one is date weekly. Now, this one's difficult because what
Yeah.
in my mind I want is a date night at dinner, at a nice dinner, and have like 3 hours together every
Yeah.
week, but that's not really the truth. So sometimes we'll wait to cook dinner for ourselves when the boys go to bed and we'll make dinner together. Or
Mhm.
sometimes we'll go to Home Depot and call that a date because we're holding hands and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then the third one is departure quarterly. So departure quarterly without your kiddos, which that's a difficult one as well. But we found ways to try to make that happen. And then with kids, like I literally just put my phone away once I have them because I've had my kids are with a nanny right now, and that's kind of how we've structured our time. And as soon as I have them, I realize, oh my gosh, they've spent so much time with this nanny. I need time with my kids. So
Mhm.
we spend all the time with them from when we get them to the end of the day. And what that means is my phone's away, my business is away, everything's done what's done. I'm not a surgeon, I have to remind myself that. And just to spend, it's important. And then the last thing I'll say is accountability, keeping yourself accountable, like your best friend. I think it's super
Yeah.
important to say you're going to show up in your office at 8 a.m. and actually do it and prove to yourself you can do it, because then it'll hardwire yourself to show up and you're happy you did something that you said you were going to do.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that I've done that too, because I had trouble in the beginning, was keep myself accountable with an accountability partner. So
Mhm.
we show up on Zoom and do some prospecting together in the morning. And that just like, I know that they're going to come. It's kind of like going to the gym, like back to your
Yeah.
analogy. I'm going to show up to a class and I don't think I can work out by myself right now. So, that kind of thing. I think it's super important.
Love the products you're hearing us chat about on the Foxy Mama podcast? Find all the featured items on my personal Amazon shops page at amazon.com/shop/the Lindsay Boo. Happy shopping!
I'm sitting here, listening to you talk, and I'm just very inspired. Especially, well, one, I've been contemplating the two phones idea myself, um, because yes, I'm glued to my phone a lot of the day because of the field that I'm in with work, but I need to also shut off. And it's also important that clients have a different number in for me,
Mhm.
because sometimes they'll text at like 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night. And now I have a client who doesn't want to email and prefers to schedule things via text. And that is not good for me. But at the same time, I need to set those boundaries in with that, but understand that that is beneficial for them to do it. They're not an email person. I need to get things on the schedule. Perhaps having that 2 phones will certainly help. I love, love, love the do not disturb feature. I deeply love my mother. However, my mom will send not just 1 text, not 2 texts. I'll get 10 to 15 texts with pictures of like, I made muffins. Here's the box of muffins that I used. Here's me mixing the muffins. Here's the outcome. And here's me enjoying. And it's very hard, exactly like the compound effect when talking about, it takes like 15 minutes for your brain. Like I stopped, I looked at that text, it interrupted me from work, and now I need to get back at work. But now I'm thinking about those muffins that my mom sent me a picture of. The do not disturb feature allows me to concentrate and to be there fully when I'm working. You could also set it for certain people, which I love. So that's why I was just like, oh, do I really need the 2 phone thing? Or can I say my clients get the do not disturb at 5 p.m. and on, right? Or do not disturb for all, especially like when I am doing computer work or when I'm doing like editing work or creative stuff. And especially like I find it that breastfeeding, when I'm breastfeeding, I am on my phone answering and replying. And my little one is like, nope, hitting my face, hitting my hand, like, pay attention to me.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to like, no, put the phone down and be there fully for these experiences, because so many people say it's gone in a blink of the eye. And soon you're like, oh, wow, my kid is graduating high school. When did that happen? And cherish the moments that we do have. I love that you are like, no, this is my kid's time. I'm putting this away. No, we have 15 minutes of talking, with your husband, and you have that dialogue, that exchange. That is very inspiring for me, and I'm totally going to implement that into our lives. Because last night we're like getting ready for bed. We're in bed. My son is next to us, like sleeping in his bassinet, and we're talking about our days and barely like awake, and then starting to talk about business. And then my mind is just like, oh, wait, business, turning back on, and I'm wide awake again. And I'm like, no, this isn't working. But so having that 15 minutes or more and doing what works, maybe that means 5 minutes, start with 5 minutes and go from there. Now with the phone thing, you're posting on social media, right? You're actively, I love your social videos. I love that you show your real life momming it. Your little ones are often in your videos, and you're sharing your authentic self on social media. And that could be stressful just in general. Are there any tips that you can give mamas out there that want to actively post on social media and showing their authentic self while being consistent and showing up, but setting those boundaries, as you said, and putting the phone down?
So to be very honest, I have a lovely neighbor that keeps up with everything I do. So she posts 3 to 4 times. Now, I say that because obviously I'm managing like, hey, I've got this new listing coming. Hey, I've got this. But then I add the authentic stuff. Like, here are my kids. Here's this awesome park that I loved. Here's, and in stories, look at this little man riding his bicycle. Like, this is crazy. So I think it's hard to remind yourself that we need to be on social media. But to be very honest, if I wasn't on social media, people wouldn't know what I do. And people that have known me for a long time. So I think it's a very important aspect of business. And once you change business is all about mindset. I think once you change your mindset to I am consistent, I will do this, I am going to share, and create those I am statements, it'll start to happen. And that's kind of the change for me was I am going to start sharing this stuff. Like, it's very important. And it's cool to see like business has come from that. And it's people that already knew me, but they know, like, and trust me, but they finally knew to reach out to me because of my interaction.
Yeah. I do. I love them. I love when it pops up in my feed and I'm like, oh, look at her. What are they doing today? And just showing your authentic self, it helps people to connect to who you are really and truly, like in your everyday life. And then when they're like, oh, I'm looking to buy a home, or I'm looking to sell my home or find an apartment or something like that, then they're like, oh, Cory, like, let me contact her because I connected with her on that emotional level, on that friendship level, and seeing her authentic, her real life. I feel like a lot of things on social nowadays, especially with AI, can be not only daunting, but have that like cookie cutter effect, like trends, dancing trends, everybody's doing the same trend or everybody's using the same sound effect. So it's very like, aha, like refreshing moment when you see a video that is just a person being a person. And yeah, maybe they're using trending audio like you do, and you're just making it different and you're making it your own. I think it's so important that people are showing up. And that also that you mentioned you have someone helping you with your social and doing the business aspects, like listing, the business side of things. And when there's a new listing or a showing or things of that note, and just having that help. And it's important to like ask for that help and invest in that help. A lot of people are like, well, I don't financially have the budget for that. You mentioned, having the nanny. And I know we've talked about it, your housekeeper, and how much you love her and how it just helps you so much. And just having that little piece of like, oh, this is done. This task is off my plate. It's just so helpful, and just investing not only in yourself, but your business and your family. Yes, these things may cost money, but in the long run, they are also saving you money because they're saving you from like having that stress of, oh crap, like I didn't dust the shelves this week, or I didn't water the plants or something like that. Having that little bit of help really goes such a long way. Now, when you prioritize and you set time for yourself and you set boundaries to ensure that your family has quality time, how does that also coincide with the real estate career? I know that you like briefly mentioned like you don't have text on, you don't have like the notifications on, but when you have like a hot listing that is in like an in-demand property, and especially in today's market, things are going like boom. How do you balance that and set boundaries work-wise? Not only just with the texting, but like with self.
Yeah, it's a really hard question because it's changing currently.
Yeah.
I think us ladies, as much as we don't have the compartments like men do, we we have the spaghetti noodle brain and everything's connected.
I know.
I do try to compartmentalize some things, and try to make sure that, do I have to do this today? Does this have to get done at 6 p.m.? And just shut it off. Like I said, removing my phone. But there are obviously times where you can't be legalistic about it because you are your own boss, at least for me, you, where you have to be a little bit flexible. And that doesn't mean all the time. And I think it's checking in with yourself. Like, am I doing this all the time now? Or, but another big thing for me is setting those expectations up front. So every single client of mine will have a buyer's consultation and a listing presentation for if you're a buyer or a seller. And that is like non-negotiable. Because in that case, they are going to hear from me that this is how I do business. If it's necessary for you to get a hold of me during this time, this is how you can. I also have a showing partner that's willing to be there for you if I can't, because things are flying off the shelf. So if you're a buyer and you need something and I can't show it to you till 3 days from now and you need it sooner, like it's important to me to have someone on my team that can show property to you. So I think that's super important. And just setting those expectations up front with your clients, like, because if they don't know your boundaries, they're going to push it. It's kind of like our kids, right? Like if they don't understand what your boundaries are and your expectations, and we're not consistent with what we're saying, then they're going to call you at 9 p.m. every night, or they're going to do this. So yeah, I think that's super important.
Yeah. I love it. I love it all. I just like, I'm soaking in like a sponge. And the fact that this episode is really about boundaries and building a team and asking for help as you're doing all the things. And that's exactly how I feel that motherhood is. And that saying like, oh, it takes a village. That village is different for everybody. When people hear that saying, they're like, well, I don't have a big family, or I don't live near family. It's also about the family that you create for yourself. It's your mom group. It's reaching out. There's the Peanut app. So if you're like new to an area, or you're not a very social person, let's say, and have a hard time like meeting people, try using the Peanut app and connecting with moms that way, especially like with kiddos around the same age. But you just, mentioned you have, someone that helps you and is on your team, like that can, show the listing if need be. You have, your nanny, the housekeeper, your husband, all these areas, your friends. And there's just that art of asking for help is really so beneficial. And finding your own village and what that village looks like to you, and prioritizing things that you want to prioritize, like family, date nights, having that 15 minutes of conversation, having that moment with your kids, putting away your cell phone. Now, do you have any advice for other parents in real estate, or just in general, who maybe considering a career change or getting into real estate, let's even say, or any advice for parents in general for navigating the challenges of balancing that work-life, mom-life balance?
First of all, get in touch with me. I am happy to help. And I think that's the coolest thing about moms in general, is that, and women, honestly, that we all just want to help each other, and we're willing to be vulnerable with each other and spill out our guts. And I think that that's huge. Second of all, I think you're going to laugh, Lindsay, but I'm going to pull out my new favorite childhood book that I gifted Lindsay. It's called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. And it's just so sweet. But one of the quotes, I don't have, like, I've got everything earmarked.
It's not just for kids. It's for us. It's like, forever, we need this. We need it. And it brings that childlike wonder in all of us, as well as connecting to our inner child and that love to give it's wow. Yeah, read the quote. I can't wait. I love it so much. It's such a great gift. It was such a great gift, because I follow the author and illustrator on Instagram, and I'm always favoriting so many of his posts. He's so wickedly talented. And when you gifted me this book, I was like, oh my God, like, thank you so much. And it's now part of our day-to-day thing that I go back to, not only for my little one, but for myself. Yes. So what's the quote?
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm probably going to butcher it, but one of the things, I think the boy asked the horse or the mole or something like, what's the bravest thing you've ever done? And it's help. Saying help. And I think that, know that you're not alone, and don't be afraid to ask for help. And I think that there are plenty of women in this world, and plenty of good in this world, where people are willing to help. I think it's huge. Just one quick example of this happening. is someone spilling out their guts that their marriage isn't going really well right now. And I just was hurt. I'm just such an empathetic person hurting, but I was a resource for them. I was like, oh, I know another mom that loves helping marriages, that she would love to talk to you, and it's free. Like she loves me, and I love her, and I think you two could connect. And they're talking this afternoon. Like, how cool is that we can change each other's lives and help each other so that we're not broken, divorced, sharing our kids, all of the things, because it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to stay married. It's hard to stay consistent with your kids and continually, when you're exhausted from your business, continually reprimand them or redirect them or whatever your ways are. Like, can't act like that in this house. Sometimes it's like, I just want to let it go. I want to let it go, but I can't. So just having that support, I think, is huge.
Yeah. The Art of Asking is one of my favorite books by Amanda Palmer. People they love her or they hate her. You could watch her TED Talk on the Art of Asking, and it's so great. And just that ask goes so far. And it's just like, even just asking someone takes that weight off your shoulders. And especially as moms, we feel this huge mom guilt a lot of the times, and we feel like we have to do it all, or we shouldn't ask for help and we should be able to do these things. But it's not always the case. Majority of the time, it's not always the case. And it's important that we do ask for help, and we do, make those connections too, in talking, because especially when we say, hey, I'm dealing with this issue, or I'm dealing with this problem, another mom might say, like, oh my God, I am too. And you don't feel alone anymore. You don't feel alone in that thought. And merely just the fact that you're asking for help has that connectivity that takes away even just the fraction of that stress, and it could feel like a huge weight being lifted off your shoulders. Now, we had talked about the compound effect. We talked about the boy, the fox, the boy, the fox, the mole, the horse, right? Am I right? In that order? It's so great. Yeah. The boy, the mole, the fox, the horse.
There you go.
Yeah. Do you have any other resources that you would recommend, whether it be another book or a podcast that you're listening to, or even a movie that you go back to again and again?
Oh gosh, so many. There is I'm going to mention 2 books that I have absolutely loved in my business. So one is called The Gap and the Gain, and I cannot think of the author right now, and I'm so sorry. But The Gap and the Gain is so good, and it's such a good reminder as a mom when you hear your kids talking, because it's like, oh, you are living in the gap right now. That's the whole premise is that, our brains are hardwired to go to the negative and to live in the gain. So you guys kind of heard me say that when I was like, oh, I wasn't supported, and I had like my newborn phase was not the best with my second. And then I moved over and I was able to support someone else. So that's the gain, right? Is that I went through this experience so that another mom doesn't have to. And that's okay. That's really cool to me. So that's an amazing book. And then Chopping Wood, Carrying Water is, I want to say a ninja, but that's not right. Some sort of someone that goes into like a samurai, goes into the whole class, and he wants to learn how to do the archery and wants to learn how to do all the things. But his, I forgot what you call the leader. I'll come up with it probably when we get off here. Yes, the sensei. Exactly. Yeah. The sensei is like, no, you need to go chop the wood and go carry the water. Nope, you can't today. You got to go chop the wood and carry the water. So meaning go do the hard things consistently, and then eventually you will see the fruits from that. So that's just such a good good book and both good
Yeah.
reminders for as we're teaching our children.
Yeah, I'm totally adding them to my list
Good.
of hopefully they're on Audible, because that's like a go-to
Yes.
right now. Is I just put my earbuds in and I listen as I'm doing like the laundry or
Yes.
multitasking.
Showering. The gap in the
Yes.
gain too. The gap in the gain, I would totally recommend Audible for sure 100% of the time,
Yeah.
because there's an interview at the end of it too. That's really good between the speaker and the author.
Mhm.
And yeah, you just kind of get more of an insight. So I think it's really, really good.
Yeah. This podcast is not sponsored by Audible, but it could be. I do. I love it so much. I've used it since the day that it came out. I'm like, this is amazing. And it's helped me read more books proficiently as well. Prior to baby, when I would read tangible books, I would put the Audible on and read it along with the book.
Okay.
And it helps you to also hear how the author intended the emphasis on certain words, or maybe a paragraph or two, because it's read how either the author's reading it himself or theirselves, or, someone's reading it and it's approved by the author. So I really like hearing where emphasis should be. And I also love favorite books that I revisit too. I often will put on Wildflower, Drew Barrymore's book, because I love Drew Barrymore and I love her voice. But yeah, I love Audible. And if they want to sponsor my podcast, that'd be great.
Let's do it.
So, Cory, as we wrap up here, where can people find more about you
So all of my
and follow
handles,
you?
yes, all my handles across social media are at Cory Wall Real Estate. And I think that's the best place to reach out to me. And of course, as a realtor, you can find me all over the internet and find my phone number. So you can call me if you need to talk about maternity leave or whatever, whatever story resonated with you.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for sharing your story and a little bit of your day today. I appreciate you. And it's such an honor to get to know you more and more, and to call you a dear friend. So thank you so much for being my guest on the Foxy Mama. You are a Foxy Mama.
Oh, you too. Thank you so much. You stole the words out of my mouth. I'm very honored to be here, and just thank you so much, Lindsay. Appreciate it.
The Foxy Mama podcast is here to entertain and share general insights. Our content is not a substitute for personalized advice from professionals like financial advisors, physicians, or therapists. So enjoy the Foxy vibes, but consult the superheroes for personalized advice.